I'm going to start out with a story. And so there's a story about a priest who gets reassigned to a new village. And as he's getting off the train at this new village, he realizes he doesn't know where he is, or he doesn't know, he's not familiar with the town, right? And so he asks little Jewish boy there, can you tell me where the post office is and the church is? Because I have to take care of some documents and I'd like to find where the parish is that I'm supposed to teach out of. So little boy gives him directions, first to the parish and then to the post office. It's a left and a right, and you go down to the end of the street and there's the post office right there at the dead end. So the priest says, okay, thank you so very much. I thought I might be lost. He says, I tell you what though, just as a treat to make it up to you, if you ever want to know how to get to heaven, come and see me and I'll tell you how to get there. The little boy had a grin, and the priest said, did I say something to amuse you? The little boy says, well, I gotta be honest, you can't find the post office. How are you going to tell me how to get to heaven? But it's like this, right? People are looking everywhere else for a solution, but it's right there, right? Right there. Hashem has placed the answer right there for you and with you. God verbally communicated the 10 instructions, and then he instructed Moshe to go and present these to the children of Israel. 40 days and nights to learn the entire Torah. Moshe was there, receiving instructions from Hashem. 40 days and 40 nights there, in the presence, in the Kavod Elohim, in the glory and goodness of God. These tablets the first set of the tablets were entirely prepared by God and were miraculous in their own right in many ways. Can you imagine having something written by the finger of God that's given to you? How amazing that in itself would be. Wouldn't that alone be amazing?
Absolutely.
And yet he has given you that very instruction there within you, and yet we disregard it, right? Because Devarim 30 says that the instruction of God is there within you. And the more you begin to walk with Hashem, the more it begins to be revealed to you, right? The more that you keep yourself consuming His Word, keep yourself walking in His worship, the more that you do these things, the more that the relevance of His Word becomes in your life. But when we don't, it becomes obscured to us. And we feel like we have to have somebody else to show us where heaven is. Right?
Yes.
But it's there within you, right? The instruction of God is there within you, written. When He breathed life into you, it was all put there. Let me go further on. When Moshe does not return when expected from Mount Sinai, the people begin to get a little bit nervous, anxious,
Restless.
uncertain, fearful. Sounds like today, right?
Oh, yes.
Anybody go to the grocery store recently? Ishka and I just went to go get something for dinner. It was nothing. You know, at least nothing. I mean, thankfully they bought most of the unkosher stuff first, right? Right? So there was still like little thin steaks, and so that's all right. We can do hoagies or something like this, right? It's fine. But everybody's running everywhere else. And yet again, time after time, we see that Hashem is calling us, right? He allows us to be victims of our own vices, our own issues. And instead of turning to Him again and again and again, we plead our sanctity. Let me go further on. Moshe does not return as expected from Mount Sinai, and the people in their anxiety and their frustration and their fear encourage, intimidate, get Aharon to help them fashion this golden calf. Anybody turn to a golden calf in their lifetime? No? Never? Well, at least we have one honest brother in here, right? Nobody else wants to admit they turned to a golden calf time or again, right?
Yeah.
Right? No, I've never been fearful or anxious waiting on God to answer. Never. But Moshe, still, as he is journeying down with the wedding contract, with the ketubah, with the 10 commandments, as he's journeying down to go present this wedding contract to the children of Israel. Mind you, 2 times before this, they had already said to Hashem, all that you have said, we will
do. We will do.
All that you have said, we will
do.
Y'all don't want to say that part, right? No? Y'all don't want to be locked in with Israel? Y'all already there, so I don't know what confusion is. How many people in here, all that God has instructed you will do, you have said this to God? So you're already there, right? Everything that you have instructed God, I will do. Right? But the moment that you don't hear from Him, or the moment that there is an outbreak, or just a hint of an outbreak, we turn to everything else. We let fear consume us, and that is our God. As if you have followed it or not, as was posted in the website and everywhere else, we are only to have fear of God alone. Only fear God alone. Though pestilence may abound all over, it will not
come near you.
Yes. If we are walking in the wings of God. Right?
Yes.
And I heard the counter argument, well, we want to be smart, we want to use wisdom. Yes. Keep kosher. Right?
Yeah.
Wash your hands, wash your face, wash yourself, right?
Yeah.
Drink plenty of fluids. Common stuff, right? Or it should be if you're walking with God. Don't eat stuff that is trade. Don't visit things that are trade. Don't dive into pools of trade nonsense. Right?
Yes.
Right? Let me go further on. So Moses comes down, breaks the wedding covenant. Why did he have to break the wedding covenant? Why did he have to break that? What was the so I heard some people say, well, it's because he was so upset. And that is one aspect to it. I mean, look, you got through carrying 160 pounds down from a mountain. You might be a little annoyed the moment that you get there and the children are misbehaving. You know? But why would he have to break these? What's the purpose?
Is it because the children broke their covenant with God?
No.
No.
What's the purpose? What do those tablets represent? They represent the wedding contract, right? The ketubah. And if there is no ketubah, there is no wedding, right? Right? But it's also a picture of Messiah being broken for us. It's also a picture of Messiah being broken for us. And then Moshe goes up there and he pleads on behalf of Israel. Messiah goes and he pleads on behalf of Israel. Then he rises and the second tablets are brought down. And the children of Israel say yet again, all that you have said we will do. Right? All that you have said we will do. I've heard other people get into the argument, well, why didn't he have to kill the people who instigated the idol worship? So my question to that question is, do we leave weeds growing in our garden?
Nope.
No.
Huh?
Nope.
No.
If you have an infected branch, you just leave it there to consume the tree.
Cut it off.
You cut it off.
You have to, right?
Yes.
You have to. It's not about, let me move further on. Moshe returns to Hashem and says, if you do not forgive them, then blot me out. That's a bold statement, isn't it? He knows they were just idol worshiping. And at any moment, even though he had those who were idol worshiping put out, he knows that at any moment they could just as easily see something else shiny on the side of the road and say, oh, I like that. Oh, that's a good idea. Anytime in our lives we could be going along and, oh, that's a good idea. Right? Anytime in our lives we could stop following God and follow something that seems like a great idea. No? You guys are quiet today. Let me move further on. Ahavat Israel. What does that mean? Ahavat Israel. What does that mean? I see a lot of people like going through their Hebrew and their brain. Huh? Or what is the gist of it? How about that? What is the gist of it? Ahavat Israel. Y'all say that.
Ahavat.
That's right.
Loving your fellow Israelis, right? Loving your favorite. Having love for them, right? Not disdain, not animosity, not anxiety, not fear, but having love for one another, right?
Yes.
Right? Because you are all citizens of what?
Kingdom.
The kingdom.
The kingdom, Israel, right?
Yeah.
Or is this a different synagogue?
No.
Huh? Is it different people we're talking about?
No.
Maybe I should go over to Rome and see if they answer that question.
No.
Let me go further on. Ahavat Israel, so living your fellow citizen, right?
Yes.
To effectively inspire others to embrace Torah study and mitzvah observance. One must sincerely and unconditionally care for the physical and spiritual well-being of others in your community. You must actually give 2 cents. Right?
Yes.
Maybe even a whole shekel. Huh? You have to care. This does not mean that you have to try and date them or try and, win a beauty pageant with them. This means simply that you have to care for them, their well-being, and their direction. Right? Because you have to let somebody know if they're headed straight towards a pig pen, a dead end, or maybe the briar patch, right? You have to let them know. Let me go further on. Even at great personal sacrifice. And we see this play out in the story of the Good Samaritan, right?
Yes.
You see the Good Samaritan, and as the story goes, there's 2 scholars, they're walking across the street, they see somebody in need, and they're like, we'll be late for service, or we'll be late for whatever, instead of taking 5 minutes to help. Right?
Yes.
Instead of taking 5 minutes to make a difference. Which was the greater mitzvah in that story? Helping, right? Being a blessing, right?
Yes.
No?
Yep.
Yes.
I think I'm at a different synagogue because you guys are super quiet today. You guys are like super, super quiet. All right. Whenever you come across someone in the process of destruction, but still claiming to be defending God and loudly proclaiming the righteousness of their cause, how do we adjust their crusade to build their golden idol on God's behalf? How do we adjust that? How do we adjust that? No? Leave them alone? Sit back, get some popcorn and watch?
Try to talk to them?
Try to talk to them? Like what, you're going to correct them? Like slap them?
No.
If need be.
Instruct them in the way of God.
The best way is to advise them to just slow down. Right? Slow down. Slow down. Right? Why did Israel build the idol? They didn't just slow down, right? They got anxious. They got fearful. They got, right? The man of God wasn't there. They didn't want to wait for a word from God. They needed something, right? Because they had been raised with these idols. Whoever's in the booth, you're slowly lowering the mic too much, okay? So they got fearful. They got fearful. And the truth is that God sometimes steps back to watch you make your journey, right? Does this mean that He has left you?
No.
Does this mean that God has forsaken you?
No.
How many people in here have children? Nieces and nephews. Nieces and nephews?
Yes.
Okay, there, you're in it too. So, if your niece and your nephew, your child, if they're riding a bicycle, won't you just step back a moment to see if he has it? Right? You just step back a moment. And the very moment you see them going towards a ditch, you'd be right there to try and help them. Right?
Yes. Yes.
You mean you wouldn't sit back, get some popcorn and watch?
Oh, no.
No? It's the same thing, right? God sometimes sits back to see that we have it, right? Because we represent the kingdom here, right?
Yes.
We represent the kingdom. We represent Messiah. We represent what's kosher, what's good, what's righteous. And though we may not be always kosher, good, and righteous, this does not excuse us from striving in that direction at all times, right?
Right.
We advise people when they're on their crusades to slow down. After all, you don't want to destroy a village in your effort to save it, right?
Right.
But you want to be the one to help guide them. And we can't guide them if we're burning their houses down or raising pitchforks, trying to take out Frankenstein. And remember, if you start out smashing things, there's a chance that your whole life is going to only be smashing things. And when you look back, there's nothing there. There's nothing built there. There's nothing good there. Because instead of choosing to repair and redo, you just want to break everything. But we get this example in motion. Because sure, he smashed the first set of tablets, but then he carved out the second set to repair, renew, restore it. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Moshe built, but he also rebuilt. He broke, but he also repaired. He was not a vengeful leader intent on punishment, but rather he was a merciful judge who sought sanctity and was willing to risk all to achieve lasting peace. Where else do we see the same example? Yeah. One of the best examples is in Paul. Here's Paul, he's on a crusade, we just spoke about that. He's on a crusade to make right all these evildoers. Right? Yeshua has to have him stop. Pause. If need be, like a shepherd, they'll break the leg of the lamb. If need be, like the shepherd, like Yeshua, Hashem will allow something to go awry in your life. So that way you stop looking everywhere else and begin to look to Him. Stop looking everywhere else and look to Him. Stop looking for the next easy fix. Stop looking for the next guru to give you the answer you've been seeking. Stop and wait on Him. Right? He's going to give you the tablets, the contract, the covenant. It's yours. But it's going to come in His time. So that means you need to be faithful throughout the journey and not rushing to find another answer. Now that the second set of tablets were about to be given, Everyone could see, and everyone could independently recognize the justice of his path. It was time for Moshe to receive his well-deserved blessing. And Hashem indeed blesses him. He went to bat for the whole nation, right?
Yes.
Set not your anger against them, but place it on me if it be so. James tells us in chapter 1, verse 20, anger of men is not worth the righteousness of God. No matter how angry or justified you feel, it does not equal the righteousness of God. No matter how just you may feel, how offended you may get, how nervous or anxious you may be, they do not equate one another, right? And yet, time and time again, people of God will say that they're justified and they'll express or stand on different positions, and yet none of it lines up with Scripture. None of it. So we cannot get within our hearts that we have the right to get on some sort of crusade. But rather it's for us to walk in righteousness with God. And that's the whole test. That's the whole task. It's for you and I to walk with God, shoulder to shoulder. In Isaiah 60, the prophet writes it this way: Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth. Thick darkness will cover all the peoples. But the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will be seen upon you. And the nations shall come to the light from you, and the kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from afar. Your daughters shall be carried on the hip. As you follow, he leads. So this brings to the question, will you follow him in Egypt?
Yes.
If that's where he leads us.
That's wherever he leads him, right, wherever he.
Will you be faithful when there's darkness around? Or will you use that as an excuse? To be unkosher. When all the darkness is around, will you still serve him?
Yep.
Yes.
Three yeses. The other people don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, no judgment. Just as he promised to gather them, he also promised to regather them. This is the God we serve. You may have been broken for a time, but as you walk with God, you will be made whole. You may have went days without, but as you walk with God, you will have. You will not know hunger or sickness the days that you walk with God. Although Israel failed to do all that he said twice, just in these last few chapters, he still chose to build them up and restore his covenant with them. And I know some people would use this as a chance to say, well, you see, the covenant with them was done. No. God doesn't go back on his word. Right?
Right.
Right.
It is for us to be faithful to Him. God remains faithful to His promises to the end, and He will reverse all of Israel's sorrows on account of His faithfulness, His mercy, His grace, His hesed. Anybody in here know sorrows in their life?
Yep.
Yes.
Just as He promised to reverse all that for Israel, He wants to reverse those in your life too. To turn your sadness into joy and gladness. That you may worship Him wholeheartedly, honestly. In John 6, Yeshua said, "This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless the Father has granted him." And from that time on, many of His disciples turned their back and no longer accompanied Him. So Yeshua asked the remaining, "Do you also want to leave?" So maybe it's been a minute since you've heard from God. Maybe it's been a little bit difficult in your life, a little challenging. Do you ever think that perhaps it's because there are things that God is trying to take out of your life that are not good for you? Maybe He's trying to mature you, to grow you. How do you make a tree grow strong if it's young and nimble? How do you make a tree grow strong? Nobody plants trees. Huh?
Water.
What?
Water.
Doing it? Okay.
Fertilizer and water.
Fertilizer, water, yes.
Lots of water.
Okay. But also, at the trunk, you scrape the base of the trunk, right? And that strengthens it. Right? Nobody knew that one?
No.
You scrape the base of the trunk, just like